Very good evening. I'm Chaiti Narula. You're tuned into WION. World is One News and you're watching WION Wallet. Let's take a quick look at the headlines from the global world of business that are making its way at this hour. The Reserve Bank of India governor is expected to appear before a parliamentary panel on demonetization. Former Tata Sons chairman Cyrus Mistry has opposed the appointment of Natarajan Chandrasekaran as his successor and may even be preparing to open another legal front challenging the decision. Indian markets end in the green with the Nifty ending above the 8,400 mark while the Sensex closed the day in green to end at the 27,257 mark. Online marketplace SnapDeal's losses doubled to $435.5 million for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2016 compared to the $195 million in the previous year. Two more Indian origin companies, the London-headquartered metals and mining company Vedanta Resources and micro-irrigation company JN Irrigation Systems Limited, are raising foreign funds by selling dollar bonds to overseas investors. Companies are raising about $1 billion by selling dollar bonds to overseas investors amid fears that yields could rise after Donald Trump inauguration this week. Vedanta and JN Irrigation, both the companies follow Bharat Petroleum BPCL, billionaire Gautam Adani control Adani Ports and Special Economic Zones and State Bank of India in raising US dollar funds. As per the resources, Vedanta has some loans maturing next year and they are selling these bonds to refinance these loans. They may raise up to $750 million US dollars. JN is also raising funds for refinancing, but it is much lower at about $250 million. And former Tata Sons chairman Cyrus Mistry has opposed the appointment of Natarajan Chandrasekaran as his successor and may even be preparing to open another legal front challenging this decision of Tata Sons. A day before the board meeting of Tata Sons met to consider Chandrasekaran as the chairman last week, Mistry shot off an angry letter to his fellow board members challenging the legality of the appointment. Our chief business correspondent Sumit Chaturvedi joins us for more on this particular story. Sumit, good evening. Tell us a little more about yet another legal backlash on the Tata Sons issue. Seems like this battle just doesn't seem to end.
Well, that's correct, Chaiti. This battle doesn't seem to end at all. At a time when Tata Sons has successfully found a new chairman, Cyrus Mistry will not let this battle go like this. He is still very much in the battle, and what we are hearing is that he will very soon file a legal case again in court against N. Chandrasekaran, the new chairman of Tata Sons. Well, this happened like that last week when Tata Sons was taking a call to have N. Chandrasekaran as the new chairman. The resolution was given among the board of directors, the director including Cyrus Mistry also. He then had shot off a letter to the other board members asking them to oppose it. He was quite against N. Chandrasekaran as the new Tata Sons chairman. So clearly he is not happy there at all. He will not let things go like this, and he is not going to sit idle on the whole thing. We expect him to go to court anytime soon and challenge the appointment of N. Chandrasekaran. Well, remember, Cyrus Mistry was unceremoniously removed as Tata Sons chairman in October. At that time, there was no resolution moved among directors, and that's why it was a surprise. This time, it was not a surprise at all. Everybody knew that what was coming in board meeting, and Chandrasekaran name will be given by Tata Sons for the name of chairmanship. So he was clearly opposing that, and now he will take it further and oppose it in the courts as well.
All right, thank you so much, Amit, for that information. Now, the Reserve Bank of India governor has appeared before a parliamentary panel on demonetization today. The panel has asked Patel to explain the decision of the demonetization and its effect on the economy. Representatives to the Indian Banks Association, State Bank, Punjab National Bank, Oriental Bank of Commerce and representatives of the Finance Ministry have briefed the members of the standing committee headed by senior Congress leader Virappa Moily. And online marketplace SnapDeal's losses doubled to $435.5 million for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2016, compared to the $195 million in the previous year. Jasper Infotech Private Limited, which runs online marketplace SnapDeal, more than doubled its losses to around $436 million in the financial year ending 31st March 2016. Its total revenues went up by 56% to $214 million in the year FY16. It had garnered revenues of $137 thereabout million with a net loss of $194 million in the previous financial year. The company's consolidated gross grew to $488 million from $195 million that we saw in FY15. This only implies that the firm lost $1.3 million every day in the past year. The firm's employee benefit expenses tripled to $134 million from $54 million. Well, the much-awaited address by British Prime Minister Theresa May committed to placing a final Brexit deal to vote in both the houses of the UK Parliament just yesterday. It just wound up yesterday. She had spoken to and addressed the people on Brexit. Now, May defined her plan for extracting Britain from the European Union. The world anticipated the much sought-after address by May. Theresa May mentioned that once again, Britain had negotiated to a final deal to leave the European Union. It would be placed before the House of Commons and the House of Lords for approval. The defining point of her speech was the confirmation that Britain would leave the European Union single market, which guarantees free movement of goods and services and people within the bloc. May reiterated that her primary aim was to regain full control of the immigration and lawmaking and hence leave the EU single market. That was an inevitable consequence of this particular decision.
So an important part of the new strategic partnership we seek with the EU will be the pursuit of the greatest possible access to the single market on a fully reciprocal basis through a comprehensive free trade agreement. And because we will no longer be members of the single market, we will not be required to contribute huge sums to the EU budget.
And last Sunday saw the running of the Ramnivas Ramnarayan Ruya Gold Cup Grade 2 at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse. This race is the lead-up race to the Indian Derby for 4-year-old colts and fillies over a distance of 2,000 meters. The Indian Derby, to which this race leads up to, is the biggest race of the Indian horse racing calendar. This year, the field comprised of only 3 runners, thanks to the prowess of the Khushru Ranji Boy-owned horse, Sergeant at Arms, sired by Ikhtiar out of race Serenade. Take a look. Last Sunday saw the running of the Ramnivas Ramnarayan Ruya Gold Cup Grade 2 at the Mahalakshmi Racecourse. This race is the lead-up race to the Indian Derby for 4-year-old colts and fillies over a distance of 2,000 meters. The Indian Derby, to which this race leads up to, is the biggest race of the Indian horse racing calendar. This year, the field comprised of only 3 runners thanks to the prowess of the Khushru Ranji Boy-owned horse, Sergeant at Arms, sired by Ikhtiar out of race Serenade. The lead-up race to the Indian Derby was hardly a lead-up, much like all the other horses given to not being able to beat Sergeant at Arms, who is habituated to winning races with much ease. The field saw 3 horses in the reckoning and, as expected, saw this Ikhtiar-sired horse take home the trophy. At one point, it was the jockey who kept him at the back and infused some nail-biting anxiety, but took a timely level jump to show off the horse's fantastic turn of foot a furlong away from home. While the Indian Derby will be his next big race, he will face storm from 2 top contenders, Hall of Famer and Icebreaker, over a distance of 2,400 meters. It'll be interesting to see whether Sergeant at Arms gets the additional 2 furlongs in the Indian Derby. All roads will now lead to the races again in Mumbai for the running of the 3rd Indian Classic of the Indian horse racing calendar, the Vilu Poonawalla Indian Oaks Grade 1 on Jan 22nd, which is popularly called as the Ladies' Derby. The race will have Mrs. Patmore, Silver Beauty and a few other top fillies of the country kiss the turf. Chaiti Narula for WION. Well, there you go. The Mumbai horse racing season is kicking off in great style. Coming weekend, we'll see the running of the Veelu Poonawalla Indian Oaks, followed by the first weekend of February, where all roads will lead to the Mahalakshmi racecourse for the running of the Kingfisher Ultra Indian Derby Grade 1 as well. On that note, let's take a quick break right here on WION Wallet. More news and updates follow on the other side. Stay with us on WION. World is One News. Thank you so much for staying with us right here on WION World is One News, and welcome back. You're watching WION Wallet. Now, the World Economic Forum has kicked off in Davos in Switzerland. China's President Xi Jinping made a strong case against America for looking inwards and reiterating behind the protectionistic walls. Just before Trump takes office, the Chinese president voiced his concerns against the protectionistic policies that would be the order of the day under the new Trump administration. The Chinese president insisted that globalization was irreversible. Pursuing protectionism is like locking oneself in a dark room. Wind and rain may be kept outside, but so is light and air. This were the words of the Chinese president, said in a speech that took references to Chinese folklore, Charles Dickens and Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. He insisted that China was committed to opening up and stood tall for globalization for emerging economies. While Trump's pledge is to make America great again, the Chinese president warned that no one will emerge as a winner in the trade war. While staying with international business news, Samsung Group chief Jae-wai Lee arrived in South Korean court today as deliberation began whether to arrest him in the corruption scam involving President Park Geun-hye. Lee has been accused of bribery, embezzlement and perjury in the case that has led Parliament to impeach Park. The Seoul Central District Court began hearing the case in the morning, but the decision may not be announced until after midnight. Lee, who is the heir apparent to the Samsung business empire, was questioned for 22 straight hours last week by the prosecutors. Lee has been accused of paying bribes up to $36 million to President Park's friend Choi Soon-sil to secure the 2015 merger of two Samsung affiliates. Big news coming in there from India now. Union Cabinet today approved a plan to publicly list 5 state-run general insurance companies: New India Assurance, United India Insurance, National Insurance Company, Oriental Insurance Company and General Insurance Corporation of India. The Cabinet's decision was announced by Finance Minister Arun Jaitley today. We're now joined by Chief Domestic Correspondent Karthikeya Sharma for more on this. Karthikeya, good evening. Why has the government really suddenly gone for such kind of a listing and divestment plans? Suddenly from 100% holding in these particular companies, they plan to divest 25 thereabout percent, if I'm not mistaken, and that was the address that Arun Jaitley made today?
See, it was already listed in the cabinet agenda, but it was not getting clearance because of the storm which the demonetization and other political issues had raised. So what I have gathered is that this delist, even on the issue of delisting, they had not decided as to how to go about it, whether to offload it or increase the listing in itself, or both the options to be exercised together, which Mr. Jaitley admitted in the press conference. So I think there will be the clarity is that mostly the shares will be offloaded. And secondly, this is to give a positive signal to the market. You see, it doesn't structurally change anything for the industry or the government, but it is a signal that the government does want to dismantle areas in which it should not be there unless and until it directly touches the life of the poor people, disadvantaged people, and gives a signal to the market that it's a government which is much tuned into the idea of an open economy, liberal economy, and a cashless economy.
Right. Thank you so much, Karthikeya, for that update. Now, moving on, Jan 23rd will be the iconic day when Asia's largest stock market, the Bombay Stock Exchange, or the BSE, will become India's first stock exchange to launch an initial public offering or an IPO. The BSE is all set to create history. Let's take a look at what the BSE has in store for the street. The price band for the IPO has been fixed at 805 and 806 rupees. According to the experts, the bourse has a healthy growth potential going forward. Brokerage reports across the board mention how the BSE has large embedded value that can be unlocked from its direct and indirect subsidiaries. And as and when these subsidiaries grow larger and perhaps even get listed, BSE will have the potential to unlock value for its stakeholders. Analysts hold that the Bombay Stock Exchange has approximately 2,500 plus crore Indian rupees in cash reserves and a bank balance of over 1,400 crore Indian rupees against share capital of 10.7 crore rupees. The BSE CEO, Ashish Kumar Chauhan, also expects good demand in the pre-IPO placement market. While the Bombay Stock Exchange will be the first one to list on the National Stock Exchange, the National Stock Exchange will be the next in line to list on the Bombay Stock Exchange. The NSE IPO, interestingly, will be the largest IPO in India after Coal India in the recent past. The Dalal Street now gears up to the two big listings that will create history in the Asian markets. Chaiti Narula for WION. Staying with news from the Dalal Street now, the Indian markets ended in the green with the Nifty ending above the 8,400 mark. The Sensex ended the day in green again to end at the 27,257 mark, up 0.08% in trade. Gold ended flat in trade today. The rupee closed at 68.04 to the US dollar and 83.75 to the pound. The European bosses are trading higher in trade today post the speech which was made, which was the much awaited speech really by Theresa May, who is the British Prime Minister, on her plans for Brexit. And in just about a bit, we will tell you how the European markets are trading as we speak. Let's take a quick check of the European markets as well. The CAC, DAX and the FTSE to be precise. France's CAC at the moment is down almost 0.5% as we speak, trading at the 4,839 levels. The DAX, which is the German index, is almost flat, up 0.08% in trade, trading at the 11,500 thereabout levels. And as far as London is concerned, we will take a look at how the FTSE is doing, and it's almost flat, posting marginal gains, up 0.11% in trade, flirting around the 7,200 mark in trade today. We're now joined by Amit Gupta, who is our markets analyst, who is here to talk to us about the market check now. Amit, first up, one of the biggest listings on the bourses is going to be the NSE listing. But before that, we've got the Bombay Stock Exchange going public as well. What is your sense of how the listing is going to be panning out? To be 805 to 806 is the price band at which the listing is likely to happen coming Monday.
Certainly. I think it is a very good buy for a lot of investors. We can see that the Indian markets has less than 2% of its population investing in the stock markets right now. When we compare this to the data from the United States or China, US has about 18% of its population investing in the stock markets. China has close to 10%. So there is tremendous opportunity for BSE to grow its customer base, which is basically the investors. So I am very bullish on the BSE IPO as well as the NSE IPO. At the same time, we know that BSE also has its own mutual fund platform. And on the back of demonetization, the illegal share trading, or the dabba trading as it was popularly known, has taken a major hit. Now, this is giving a boost to the stock market industry in general. So BSE IPO is coming at the right time. It will be listed after the budget is announced. And if there is a very populist and a good budget, then generally the markets will go up, which will help further increase the listing price of the BSE IPO.
Amit, we also have the NSE listing straight after the BSE. So just to draw a comparison for our viewers who could be the potential investors in both the IPOs, which one is the better bet according to you? The NSE one, which is one of the largest fundraising opportunities in India after the Coal India IPO came out, or the BSE, which is also touted to unlock great value in terms of shareholders for their potential for their investments?
Both have their own strengths. NSE, like you said, is one of the largest IPOs coming out, and its investors are not just the domestic investors, but also the FIIs, and a large portion of the derivatives trading happened through the NSE right now. Now, with the launch of the international exchange last week by Prime Minister Modi, the Indian markets are going to be opened not just to domestic investing, but also to foreign retail investors. So this will give a further boost to the overall stock industry, taking the NSE IPO to higher levels. So I would say, being an investor, you should take a bet on both of these, because generally the stock market industry in India is going to flourish.
I'm just taking a look at how the American markets ended in trade last night. The Dow was down 0.3%, S&P down 0.3% again, and Nasdaq down 0.63% in trade yesterday. And today, with the European markets are looking like they're doing well in trade after Theresa May's address as well. What's your sense of how America and Europe are panning out to be in the next couple of trading sessions? Also, not to forget, Trump takes on as the president of the United States of America, and that probably would have an impact on the American and the rest of the globe as well.
Absolutely. President-elect Donald Trump is taking office in a couple of days' time. And just yesterday, he mentioned about showing some concerns over dollar's strength, saying that the dollar is too strong, which is hurting the U.S. exports. Now, this had an impact on the dollar overall, which showed some negative trading against the emerging currencies. So even the Indian rupee gained against the dollar. On the Eurozone side, we saw some selling on the British pound on Monday, but after Theresa May's address yesterday, that all decisions will be passed through the parliament, there is some indication that it won't be such a hard Brexit after all. And as a result of which, the FTSE and the other Eurozone indices are all up. So I see some positivity coming in the Eurozone, whereas the US still remains in the uncertain territory and a very choppy market right now, until Donald Trump clears out his policies after he takes office.
All right, thank you so much, Amit Gupta, for that quick markets check. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have on this edition of WION Wallet. But don't go anywhere. Stay with us on WION World is One News, as we, as always, bring you a budget special. This time around, we are going to be discussing the expectations out of the banking, insurance and the financial sectors as well. Take a quick break. On the other side, all of this and much more follows.